Love has been good to me this time around. Things were bound to change when it was found. Sugar never tasted sweeter on my lips. My heart is now intact, and I can find no risk. This is love, yeah, love. Never known true love before. Seen so many counterfeits that left me on the floor. This is love, yeah, love. All will come to those who wait. Time it cannot know the bounds, and here I don't dictate.
Well, very good afternoon to you, and welcome to Xandermonium, the talk show that does indeed get you talking. I'm your host, Xander Gibb, and coming up on today's show, I will be looking at some of this week's more interesting news stories with the fabulous Tony Losacco, who's covering for Ty this week. And in part two, comedian Sarah Boyles joins us to talk about bullying and teen suicide, which is sadly on the rise. More to come in a mere moment. So as per usual, you can interact with us during the show in the chat room at the bottom of the show page. Click on the link, go to the show page, keep scrolling down to the bottom. Now, if it doesn't let you interact, that's because you have to join a Blog Talk, their rules, not mine. And you can do that simply with Facebook and Twitter, and that will allow you to get involved with the chat. Tell us what you think. You can also call us on 347-884-9061 or on Twitter. My Twitter handle is at XanderGibb, XanderGibb, capital X, capital G. Tony's Twitter handle, yes, he is using Twitter a little more. Let's encourage him further. Make sure you follow him and tweet him, because then he's going to have to reply to you at Full Story 2014. That's FULLSTORY 2014. As always, don't forget to use that important @ symbol. Sarah's Twitter handle is at Boyles_S. That's BOYLES_S, all lowercase. Tweet me if you're too shy, and I will make your point for you. So there's still time to vote in our poll at XanderGibb.com if the website is up. There's been a few problems with the server. I hate you. So today's question is, if you don't happen to be able to vote on the site, what you can do is you can call us and tell us what you think, or you can tweet me or tell me on Facebook, should the Kentucky County Clerk have been jailed for not issuing a same-sex marriage license? That should the Kentucky County Court Clerk, try saying that when you've had a few drinks, Kentucky County Court Clerk have been put in jail for not issuing same-sex marriage licenses. Or as I said, you can give us a call on this subject or absolutely anything you want to get off your chest, as long as it's not hair, because we're not in the exfoliating mood today. Our telephone number is 347-884-9061. That's 347-884-9061. Oh, yes, indeedy. Welcome to everybody in the chat. We will get to you very soon once we have brought on our co-host for today. Tony Losacco, broadcaster, libertarian, and free thinker with a common sense approach to the issues that matter. Always insisting on the full story. Here to join us today, from the full story, is the one, the only Mr. Tony Losacco. Welcome back to the show, Tony. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Xander. How are you?
I am hot and perplexed, and I need a holiday. And is it too early for a cocktail? No, I'm absolutely fine. How has your week been?
My week's been, well, it's been one of those weeks off and on, good and bad, you know. I'm grateful for friends on Facebook that sometimes have that can actually debate and honestly debate and engage without without insult and actually possibly change your opinion, because that's what's really happened to me on a few issues this week.
Right.
A change of heart.
What do you think it says about people, Tony, that are not willing to either concede or look at other aspects of any particular topic? Because I know I've been there myself, because obviously I was a Democrat, and I'm part of the foundational principalities of being a Democrat. For some people, is to be as stubborn as a mule, hence the mule being the party symbol.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm being bitchy now, but what do you think it says about people that are not prepared to concede or look at other sides of the story?
I think it shows moral and intellectual and even emotional weakness on their part. In fact, everybody heard me rail on Donald Trump last week and compare him to Hitler. I can actually defend him on this one aspect. He came out and he said, hey, yes, I was a Democrat. I changed my opinion. That's not a reason to condemn the man. That's a reason to celebrate and say there's somebody that looks at his opinions, can say I was wrong, especially for Donald Trump, and grow.
Well,
it's the people that never change their opinion that I'm afraid of, actually.
Absolutely. Look who you're talking to, Tony. I was a lifelong Democrat. So the last thing I can criticize Donald Trump for a lot of things, but one thing I can't criticize him for is can't trump him for evolving, because if we're not evolving in every aspect of our life, that means we're standing still. And if we're standing still, we're actually really going backwards, I think, really. So let's launch head first into this week's first story. Now, I don't know if you heard about this, but this week, an Arby's employee in Florida was accused of denying a police officer service for being a police officer, who said it was a joke, not a refusal of service. Now, Kenny Davenport, who's 19, from Pembroke Pines, I don't know how close that is to you, said Police Sergeant Jennifer Martin pulled up to the drive-through window, but he says their interaction was a joke and it was taken the wrong way. Now, apparently, Officer Martin was told by a manager that he, meaning Kenny Davenport, does not want to serve you because you're a police officer. Now, she was uncertain whether she wanted to eat at the restaurant because her food might be tainted. The last thing you want to do, taint the food of a cop. They have guns and a handcuff, remember. So the manager tried to assure her everything was fine and handed over her food. Now, with the increase in anti-police sentiment, was this an overreaction on behalf of the officer, or were the restaurant at fault, or were they both at fault? What say you, Tony?
Well, giving in, and once again trying to get the full story, I will give one statement in advance, which is I think that the police unions have blown this way out of proportion, because Arby's dealt with the issue already, and they're trying to make this a martyr cause.
Let me just stop you for a second. You're talking about, you say the police unions have blown this out of proportion. You're talking about the Arby's incident, not the fact that so many police officers are getting slain lately. I just wanted to be clear about that.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for clarifying. Right. Yes, the police union, the PBA, has made this into a nationwide crusade and protests and this and that. I think they're blowing it way out of proportion because of what's happening, and they're looking for any issue. However, that being said, the manager, I believe Arby's did follow through with this and fired the manager, and I think the fault lies with the manager. I'm sorry, but if one of my employees tells me they're not going to serve a customer, if I was a boss, they're fired. It's that simple. Yeah, I don't think the police officer, first of all, I'd be concerned if somebody didn't want to serve me and I was at a fast food restaurant. So, no, I don't think the police officer blew it out of proportion at all. I would have gone right back and reported it myself and probably called corporate myself and done the same actions that individual officer did. Also, not knowing the full circumstance, because there's a lot of the story missing, if you notice. There's that. It's funny. It's like there's a large chunk not knowing the full story and what's really the details here. I don't buy from what I do know the whole, it was a joke and she knew it was a joke at the time defense. I tend to believe that this was a kid that hated cops or refused to serve them, which, then he gets fired. That's the way I see it. He should have been fired by the manager on the spot.
I have a different take on it, and I think it was the manager that was actually to blame, because I saw an interview in my research for this segment. I watched an interview with the young guy. Number one, he's 19.
Right.
You know, let's face it. I'm sure you and I have done things when we were 19 that we would totally regret doing or saying today. But here's the thing for me. In a couple of the I saw the interview, and in a couple of the interviews. In a couple of the articles, they said that the young guy had said, because I'm young and I'm colored, which is obviously a phraseology that a black person wouldn't refer to themselves as being colored, because that language is kind of a little bit, it's borderline on racist as far as I'm concerned to refer to someone as colored. It's fine to say someone is ethnic or that someone is black or African American, but not colored. But when I watched the video, he never said this. He said, I'm saying nothing more. He said, because, you know, I'm a young 19-year-old person, and then she is she's obviously a cop. And so for places to be adding a racial element to this with what is going on right now in the United States of America with regards to the issues with racism and anti-police sentiment. I was going to say Semitism then. I have the wrong brain. That would be a Jewish cop, of course. Why do you think the media are trying to inflame this even further to make this a black versus cop issue? Because clearly it's not that, is it?
Well, see, and I caught a little bit of the interviews, too. I could actually buy that maybe he was joking. It goes back to what you said. It really seems like the manager was at fault. Either the kid was joking and the manager had very poor judgment at a minimum to repeat the joke to the officer who took it the wrong way. That's a possibility, just a miscommunication, like they're saying, at which case the manager still deserves to be fired or at least reprimanded in some way, because the incident would have been avoided if the kid was just joking. So either way, it really does lie not with the employee but with the manager. If he was evil, and that's what I would call it, to refuse service to a police officer, then the manager should have fired him on the spot if he was serious. And if he wasn't serious, why the heck would you go back to the window and repeat that to the police officer? It just doesn't make any sense. I think it was bad management. However, it's being blown out of proportion. It was already dealt with, and the police unions are calling for boycotts and protests, and this is a case of where people want their payback because police have been seen in the wrong light, and rightly so being seen in the wrong light, and now they're trying to establish, see, we're persecuted too, because in America today, don't we all want to be persecuted? We've all been offended and persecuted, and we're all being crucified. And it's a race to figure out what group has been crucified and persecuted the most.
All right, so while your blood pressure comes back to normal, I want to open this discussion up a little. If you have an opinion on this, call us on 347-884-9061. That's 347-884-9061. The switchboard is clear, and we can take your call. Now, I am really concerned at the level of anti-police sentiment right now. There are pages. Louis Farrakhan has a page on Facebook. It's his own page. He shared a video recently that was calling for killing of white people, and there are other pages on Facebook that call for the killing of cops and the killing of gays. And I reported. I'm totally going to put my hands up and admit to it. I reported that Louis Farrakhan video because to me that is inciting violence. If I sit on this show and I say
absolutely
kill every Catholic, now I know you're a Catholic, but I'm just using this as a stupid example. If I said on this show, kill every Catholic, and there was a spate of Catholic killings across the country, it's possible that I've had some hand in that. Would you not agree?
I would absolutely agree, and I would have reported it. I've reported similar things on Facebook myself. If I had seen the link, I would have done the exact same action. Furthermore, the man should be jailed, okay, because that is a crime. He is calling for a violent attack against a group of people that is not covered under free speech whatsoever, and the government is not fulfilling its obligation to protect citizens, and they should be held accountable if somebody following Louis Farrakhan decides to shoot somebody because of that post. I mean, I am absolutely in agreement with you there, 100%.
Absolutely. But why is Facebook not doing anything about it?
Oh, well, that's a more complicated issue. I certainly cannot speak for Facebook, but there are some there are some very, very hot feelings and complex issues around this. I mean, even we'll deal with the police aspect first, okay? What Americans refuse to acknowledge, I think, in general, is we either want to make our police officers out to be heroes, and they're the knights in shining armor like the military no matter what, okay?
Right.
Or we want to demonize them. What we don't want to look at is how our society itself has created this situation for individuals. And what I mean by that is we have an occupying force in the United States of America. We have
Are you referring to the Obama administration?
No, I am referring to America's police forces. And I realize how controversial that is going to sound.
Wow.
We have an occupying army in the United States of America, and that is the police departments, whether it is your local village policeman or whether it is your city, your state, your federal. The police have become militarized over the years. They have organized, in the original, I'm a criminal justice major, the original concept behind policing was actually to organize them as a military force back in the 1800s. Police departments were formed. That was the goal in the 1800s, if you follow the history of policing. What's happened is it's taken until the 1800s, to the latter part of this, to the beginning of this new century, for that to actually formally happen. But what we have is a standing army in the United States of America. That's the problem.
So let me just stop you for 1 second there, because I would agree with that, but I want to talk about how that pertains to individual officers. But the militarizing of the police, if I've pronounced that even right, is actually a government issue, and it's the government that have done that. And isn't it funny how countries that organize coups do this just before they're about to do so?
Yes, but it does play to the individual officers, because that old saying comes into play: absolute power corrupts absolutely. And that's what it is. Our protectors have become our overseers, and that is the issue. And it's not that every overseer is bad. I'm sure every slave master wasn't bad, okay? You have to judge individuals by the context of what they do. There are good, heroic police officers out there.
Which was exactly my next point, Tony. We can't afford to generalize. Now, I know a lot of cops, and I've spent a lot of time with cops. And no, not just when I've been arrested before you ask. But here's the thing. It's like any industry, any job, there are always going to be bad eggs as a part of that. Whatever it might be, teachers, doctors, lawyers, especially politicians, radio talk show hosts, social workers, you name it. There are always going to be people that are bad at their job. But what is tending to happen, unfortunately, is that people are generalizing. But the biggest thing that they actually forget about being a police officer, and I've spoke about this in depth to people who are actually police officers, when you have a split second to make a decision, and in that split second, you have to make a choice about protecting the public and protecting yourself over a potential perpetrator. And in that split-second decision, to expect you to always get that right is ridiculous.
I agree, but I disagree for one, Xander. I will give you the specific example. I think you might have seen the footage even of the white man with his hands up. And I'm picking on this because it is a white man, so we don't get confused with race issues like this has been. Because I believe that's the problem. It's been confused with race. It's not a race issue. It's a abuse of authority issue. The white guy raising his hand, so the police claim had a knife, and they shot him to death. But in the video, he's clearly got his hands up in the air. Hands up, don't shoot, as Black Lives Matter. Okay, there's no justification for when you can walk away, back up from a suspect, use a taser, and there's several of you present, to shoot a man with his hands up in the air, regardless, if the man had a knife in his hand, there was no justification for shooting the man dead.
Right.
And it's an abuse of power.
I totally take that point, but that's an individual example, and I go back to my point once more about not generalizing, because yes, that was wrong. And I would even be prepared to say that the guy that was killed in Long Island, Eric Garner, that police officer, in my opinion, was incorrect. If you as a police officer have had a history with someone, you shouldn't weigh in. He should have said to his colleague, look, dude, you deal with this, because anything I say will not be right with this guy because we have a history. And the guy ended up dead, and that's a concern. I can't defend Michael Brown from the information that I have pored over, because I like to be as correct as possible when I'm giving an opinion. Let me finish, Tony. What came from that for me was that there clearly had been an altercation with him and the police officer, and if he indeed did grab the police officer's gun and he did end up getting shot, and there's all this BS about he was walking away and he had his back to him when he got shot, then for me, if you try and take a gun from a police officer and you end up getting shot in the process, that's not the police officer's fault. I'm sorry. It really isn't, because if you try and take a police officer's gun, you could do several things with that. You could shoot innocent bystanders. You could shoot the actual officer. And so for me, not all of these examples are cut and dried. And every media corporation wants to spin it in their own direction, dependent on their particular leanings, whether they're pro-gun, anti-gun, pro-cop, anti-cop. And I think every situation needs to be dealt with on its merit and not generalized about.
True. Now, one thing I'd like to say about this, I don't normally propose solutions, but I do believe how critical I am, that time where if you're shooting your mouth off about how wrong things are, you need to come up with something. So I think a good idea in this country, and I'm not saying it's a perfect idea, I think that to counterweight the absolute authority given to police, which need to have that authority, every police department, most departments already have an internal affairs division to investigate corrupt police. I think there should be a separate division, not in the police, a separate agency apart from the police that investigates violations of individual civil rights, no matter what race or color or creed. And I believe we need a law enforcement agency with the specific job of investigating the people that are supposed to be protecting us. And I think that that's what might be needed to solve a lot of these issues, an independent investigative organization with just authority over the police. A what?
An impartial body that looks at these.
Right, an impartial body. And some cities have civilian review boards. I'm talking about going beyond that. I mean, we need an actual police agency to investigate the police in every department to ensure our rights are protected. I think it's gotten to that point.
I wouldn't disagree with that. I definitely wouldn't. But what I'm vehemently against is lumping every single police officer into the same category, because for me that is dangerous. It's like when people say that all white people are racist and all black people are thugs or criminals and all Puerto Ricans are lazy and don't want to work. All of those things are generalizations. Maybe not the last one. I'm just joking to our Puerto Rican listeners, of course.
No, I completely agree. That is the problem in this country, is the generalizations and trying to fit everybody into a box. And that's what you're so great about your show, as one of your viewers pointed out a few weeks ago. You don't fit people in boxes, and that's what I like about your show. The whole idea is to transcend the left-right persona and the generalizations, and to actually have people think critically about issues and individuals, and not just put everybody in a box.
For sure. I mean, there are certain people I would really like in a box, and I'm not going to mention names. Ha ha. But in essence, this is the thing for me, Tony. I have to practice what I preach. And when some of my conservative friends put things on Facebook and say, Democrats are this and Democrats are that, I put asterisk, some Democrats are, period.
Right.
Because, and I do the same with my Democrat friends that want to generalize on everything that conservatives say. Because here's the thing for me. Whoever you are, whatever your role in life, and whatever political affiliation you choose, not every single person is going to be the same. Not every black person thinks the same. Not every Republican thinks the same. Not every person who's labor. But, there is a continuing circular feed in media of brainwashing. I'm just writing an article about this, funnily enough, where like the LGBT are brainwashed to think that everyone that disagrees with gay marriage is homophobic. Some Republicans are brainwashed to think that all Democrats are bad. Some Democrats are brainwashed to think that all Republicans are bad, and on and on and on. Because there's an agenda out there of control, and if they keep this control going, it really does kind of serve a purpose, because they keep the status quo of hate going, and I'm here to break that.
Can you hear me, Xander? Yes. Okay. I thought I lost you for a minute.
But we have to start saying, people say thanks Obama. We have to start saying thanks Blog Talk more often. So sorry. Please feel free to carry on.
Well, that's really all I have to say on this issue. As you know, I've got plenty to say on the Kim Davis issue when we get to that. But
absolutely,
I think we pretty much summed it up.
Absolutely, we're gonna move on now, because we've got a guest coming on at 4:40 to talk about bullying and teen suicide, Sarah Boyles. But tell us about what you've brought for us today. Give us a synopsis of your take on what's happened with the Kim Davis situation. Tell us who she is and what she's done and what's going on.
Okay, well, I'm tabling everything I was going to discuss, my little, stories that I usually give for this, because I feel it's so important. I've changed my mind on Kim Davis thanks to a Facebook friend. Okay, thanks to a Facebook friend. Now, I have not changed my mind. Kim Davis, as I'm sure everybody by this point knows, is the clerk in Rowan County who is refusing to issue marriage license to gay couples, and she has been jailed by a judge for violating a court order. So if anybody doesn't know that, that's the background. She is in jail right now because the judge ordered her, obey the law, it's your job to issue license. She said no, and he placed her in jail. So that would be the background. However, can you hear me, Xander? You're still there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm listening intently.
Okay.
Ready to pounce.
I do believe that she should be released from jail immediately, and that she should be released under habeas corpus. Here is why. I find what she did morally repugnant as a Christian, and I do believe what she did was illegal. As far as Kentucky law goes, she is guilty of official misconduct, but that is not what she's being held for. That is not why she is in jail right now. She has not been charged with official misconduct, which is what she did. She is refusing to do her job. That would be official misconduct. They should put her in jail for that. But that is not why she is in jail. She is in jail because she defied an order of one single human being in a black robe. And my thing with that is, as much as I disdain this woman and district she did and believe she does belong in jail, we have to be careful with why we lock people up. Because what if President Trump in 2016 decided to deport every illegal immigrant and the federal marshals refused to obey that law? Would a judge then order all the marshals locked up? Or if the federal government decided they wanted my land and the judge said, yes, they can have your land, and I defied that judge, would I then be locked up? We cannot allow one individual judge to be able to lock people up, and it's happening more and more in this country where
Definitely
judicial etiquette rules. And that's my problem with the issue, and that's why I think she should be freed, because somebody should not go to jail based on defying one individual judge's order. That's my problem with it.
I totally agree with you. Now, here's a little bit of my take on this. Now, as the listeners will know, that I have some issues with same-sex marriage, and they're mostly to do with the fact that I don't believe that any minister of religion should be forced to perform those ceremonies if it goes against their beliefs, and I don't believe that makes them a hater or homophobic to do so. Now, I said all along that I felt that justices of the peace, and I guess this is what she is really. The county clerk is kind of the same thing. She issues those licenses. I've always said that for me the issue is about turning same-sex marriage into holy matrimony, not kind of having a problem at the state level. But I really thought about this with Kim Davis. Now here's the thing. I don't know what employment contract law is like in Kentucky, but in some states, she would have to have a contract of unemployment, even though she's elected because she's paid to do what she does. Now, they've changed her contract of employment without actually giving her any choice or changing her contract. And then they have imprisoned her for not wanting to work within the ramifications of that new contract, which they've not even got her to sign, because I get from what I've heard about her, she's not she would not agree to that. So there could be a contractual aspect to this. But what if I go to work on Monday and Tuesday because it's Labor Day, and my boss says to me, Xander, we now want you to stab pigs in the eye and record their response as a part of your job. Now, I never signed on to stab pigs in the eyes, and obviously I'm using a stupid example because there is a lot of stupidity in this. And then I was put in prison because I refused to stab pigs in the eye because I think hurting animals for the sake of it is wrong, and so that's something I would vehemently oppose. I know that I'm not an elected official, and so to say that to say that is it's kind of a different take on it. But I think there's a level of concern with regards to that. Now, one more thing.
May I? Go ahead,
if
Xander.
you let me just finish, I just want to say one more thing, and then you can say what you got to say. Now, the other aspect that has really bothered me the most about this is the people that are saying she's been married 4 times before, and she's done this, and she's lived outside marriage, and she's had children outside of wedlock. Well, here's the thing. I'm here to tell you, Xander Gibb, that apparently since she's been a Christian, she's tried to live a good life, a better life, and a life that is accepting before God. So for me, all of that really goes out of the window, because if we were expected to be perfect as Christians, then Jesus wouldn't have had a role to fulfill in dying on the cross. So there you go.
Well, I definitely agree with the second part of what you said, and I'm glad you pointed it out. But one thing I think is important to highlight in this, remember I did say she deserved to be in jail, but not for why she was put in jail, and not the means by which she was put. Here is why. I'm going to contrast her with, it was on Facebook, there's a clerk in another state that's refusing to marry gay couples. And he has said, I'm not doing it, it's against my beliefs. What he has simply done is instruct his clerks, any gay couple that wants to be married, you send them to another judge. Okay? Right. That's legitimate. And it's like you said, Xander, if your contract was changed and you didn't like it, you would quit your job. That's a legitimate protest for somebody being immoral. What she has done has gone beyond that, and that's why I believe she does deserve to be in jail, because she has stated that not only does she refuse to do it, she is stopping others under her authority to do it. So if she simply resigned in protest, nobody would be arguing or imprisoning her for that. But the judge even offered, I'll release you. I'll release you as long as you don't interfere with the deputies issuing these. You don't have to do it. You don't have to let them do it.
Here's the thing. He didn't give her the option to resign, Tony, and also the other thing that they missed about this, that even the deputies that were issuing these marriage licenses, the marriage licenses would have Kim Davis's name on it. So she's even said all along that if they issue the marriage licenses without her name on it, which there is a way to do it, apparently, she wouldn't have an issue with it. Now, here's the thing for me. I'm not defending her. I am defending some of the points that she's made, but the thing is that I think that personally she should have either left or they should have fired her. But this has made a martyr out of her in this situation, and I don't personally think she should have gone to jail for not doing her job, because if I don't do my job properly, I will get my ass fired. And that should be the way that it is. She should not be. But let's face it, if we're imprisoning government officials for not doing their job properly or doing their job dishonestly, half of the governors and state senators would be in jail right now. The prison system would be overrun. So
yes, we'd have to start with Congress.
Yes, exactly. Let's start with Congress. Let's start at the top. Let's look at the things that the president has done that is illegal. Let's put President Obama in jail for the things that he has done that are illegal and unconstitutional. Did I just say that live on the radio? Where the FBI and the CIA are honing in as we speak.
But Xander, it does come down to one relevant issue here, which is she could have resigned at any time and not done this. She could have just got out of the way and not participated morally. If they were forcing her to participate, that would be one thing. All she had to do was resign her job. The same thing you or I or any common sense, moral, decent American would do if we felt our employer was asking us to do something immoral. She's done this to herself. Now, I disagree that a judge should have that absolute authority to imprison her for defying him, because that gets into judicial tyranny, essentially, and who's next to violate a judge order?
How will you respond, Tony? I really am kind of curious. How will you respond when they do this to a minister of religion for refusing to perform a same-sex marriage?
They will not, because it's a different circumstance. The religious minister, if Kim Davis, hear me out now. If Kim Davis was in a private shop or a private entity or private business, I would absolutely defend her right to refuse a service. But she is a government official. This is no different than if I went to the DMV and they refused to issue me a driver's license because I had a piercing or facial hair.
Please not
that I have
not
piercings
talk about
or
the
facial
DMV
hair.
today. It's a very sore subject in this house. Let's not talk about the DMV today. I'm not defending her in any way, shape, or form. But what I am doing is kind of highlighting some of the issues. And I have to say that the ordained minister that worked in a wedding chapel that was prosecuted because he refused to perform a same-sex marriage. So it has already happened.
Oh, really? See, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah. Check back in my blogs. There's a blog I wrote a few weeks ago. When it was announced that SCOTUS had backed same-sex marriage, I wrote an article about it. See, I'm not trying to scaremonger. I hope that this doesn't happen. I really do. And I have to make this clear as well. I want every single person that's in the LGBTQ community to have exactly the same rights as everybody else in this great nation, because that's what America is about. But the other side of the coin is, for me, equality is about having the same rights and wanting more rights, which some people in the LGBT community do want, is not what I fought for 25 years. It really isn't.
Well,
we'll be smuggling a cake and a file in for Kim Davis or not.
We have to be very careful when we use the force of government against any individual, and that's what's happening in this case. And a lot of people hate Kim Davis because of what she's doing. But the question I want every viewer to ask themselves is, what would happen if that were you in a different situation? And that's what we have to keep in mind.
Exactly. Do keep texting us, do keep tweeting us and sending us Facebook messages about this, and feel free to continue the conversation on any of the chat boards. So we have to move on to our next segment now, because our next guest is in the virtual green room, and she's not well today, so I don't want to keep her waiting very long. It's official, Tony, that bullying is on the increase, and sadly, so is teen suicide. It's one of the leading causes of death amongst teenagers. And the CDC reports that it's the third leading cause of death behind accidents and homicide of people aged 15 to 24. Even more disturbing is the fact that suicide is the fourth leading cause of death for children between the ages of 10 and 14. Now, this is a very real issue, and it's important to recognize the fact that the suicide rate amongst teenagers is on the rise, and we need to stunt its rise, and it's vital to recognize what leads to it. Bullying, feelings of hopelessness, anxiety, feeling trapped are all contributory factors. And in some cases, teenagers believe that suicide is the only way to solve their problems. Other factors that may contribute to teen suicide include divorce of parents, violence in the home, inability to find success at school, struggling with one's sexuality, feelings of worthlessness, rejection by parents, substance abuse, or the death of someone close to the individual. Now, the suicide of a friend or someone he or she knows online can also contribute too. It's of great importance to treat your children with respect and understanding, and to show your unconditional love and offer emotional support. And it's important that a teen considering suicide feels loved and wanted. Show your teenager that it's possible to overcome the challenges that life throws at them, and make sure that he or she knows you are a willing parent and will help out. Now, comedian Sarah Boyles has been very disappointed with the lack of response and acknowledgments in her own vicinity regarding teen suicide, and took it upon herself to mark the fact of the many teen suicides in her area in order to get officials to sit up and take notice. So joining us today to tell us more is the fabulous, the one, the only, Miss Sarah Flu-riddled Boyles. Welcome back to the show, Sarah. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm okay. Thanks, Xander. How are you?
I am getting there. We both need a cocktail. It's been a very touchy show today. You're live on Xandermonium, Sarah, with myself, Xander, and my co-host for today, Tony Losacco. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
So, Sarah, I obviously am an avid follower of your Facebook page, and even though you're not an elected official in the place where you live, you actually took it upon yourself recently to take a stand regarding bullying and teen suicide. Tell us a little bit about what you did and why.
Well, recently we've had, just since January, we had a young lady that was 18 hang herself in my town. Then we had a 19-year-old boy hang himself, and then we had a 14-year-old boy hang himself. And just last week we had a 16-year-old boy hang himself. So, and I mean, we're in a county of 10,000 people or something. It's not many.
Wow.
And so, you know, like I've told, I think the last show we discussed that where I live is fourth in the entire state of Illinois for suicides per population, which means we beat Chicago, we beat East St. Louis, and in my county we have a higher instance of suicides than the national average, and that's including New York, LA, and all of them put together per population. So we have it bad here. And we don't have any rallies. You know how they have anti-bully rallies? Well, they don't have anti-suicide rallies, even though we are losing tons of students to some. I mean, we had one that was 14 that shot himself in the face. I mean, just a few years ago. It was sad. He was bullied. No one listened, and his grandparents left, and he shot himself with their shotgun. I mean, we lose a lot of 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds. It's sad. It really is, and no one was doing anything. So I made. It ended up being over 130 memorials, which was just paper sacks that I cut hearts out of and put candles in, and I wrote the name of each person that had killed themselves. I also added some accidental overdose people because we have a lot of that here. We also beat the national average here for that as well. And, I thought maybe I'd see a city leader there, like at least someone, but no one like that showed up. But we did have I think 400 overall came through because even a biker gang came to support, the families. But at any given time, there's 200 people on the Marion County Courthouse lawn taking a stand against suicide and the stigma. They keep it so silent here. They don't want people talking about it, Well, that's one of the myths of suicide. If you talk about it, people will kill themselves. No, that's not how it goes. If you actually take the time to say, are you suicidal? It gives these kids a chance to say, okay, yes, I am. Because it's hard to say you're suicidal. I'm getting mad. So our school.
Let me stop you. Let me stop you
Please.
for 1 second because I'm aghast. This is one of the things that really has been a bugbear for me in all of this. That people are suggesting in your vicinity that if you talk about suicide, it encourages kids to do so. What are these hicks smoking, Sarah?
Oh, K2, which is artificial weed. They really are. That's very popular here. And even some of our elected officials do it. And bath salts. We are known for our drugs. No, I can't. I have to live here. But the people know who I'm talking about. I mean, it's well known in town. It's just that, like I said, I expected to see a city official there. I did run for mayor. You were one of my supporters, and
Absolutely.
I promised to be a hands-on mayor, and I didn't make it, but I'm still hands-on. I'm still going to go out there. I'm still going to help the community. I expected to see our mayor there. Maybe I'm crazy. I just thought because it's his citizens killing themselves and he has children that age that he might care. And maybe he does and he doesn't want to be seen near me. I don't know what it is, but I haven't had any elected officials reach out to me to ask for any kind of advice. I'm working with the local community resource center, which is the only center we have for suicide. They gave me like 1,000 cards to hand out at my thing at the memorial, and it's just nobody will pay attention. None of our lawmakers will pay attention. The citizens want something done. Quite a few of them, like the Jason Foundation. He was a child who killed himself, I think, in Indiana. They go to schools and they give out literature. They teach teachers, like, here's what you do if a student's depressed, suicidal. They teach parents. They teach students, and they won't let them in our school. They won't at all. They said, hey, if we ever have a suicide epidemic, we'll take care of it. Mm-hmm. Hello, you've had a suicide epidemic for 5 years.
Exactly. Well, because clearly with all the names that you put on those bags as part of that memorial, every single one of them are someone that could potentially be saved.
And I only mentioned the children. I want to say a month ago we had a 40-year-old shoot himself out by the lake. He was actually 38. I was rounding up. And we had a 44-year-old 3 weeks ago shoot himself. He had 6 children. I mean, it happens weekly. We are having suicides weekly in this tiny, tiny-ass town. People have said, like, is this supernatural?
Wow.
Xander, may I say something?
Tony, you wanted to? Yes,
please,
absolutely.
Yes,
Tony.
Yes.
Okay, well, as a mental health professional and somebody that's worked with youth in direct care facilities for over 10 years, I have a lot to say on this issue, and I applaud you for what you're doing, by the way. I mean, if I was there, I would be shaking your hand right now. Because
thank you.
there are several problems with the system right now, and I face them as a direct care worker and a mental health professional. Number one, nobody gives a crap about kids because they don't vote and they don't have money. And I'm sorry to say that's the reality. That's the reality in our country, and it's sad because people will talk about curfews, lock them up as an adult, and not give a crap if they're killing one another or killing themselves because they don't care because they're just kids. That's the first problem. But
You're
the second problem is we have a culture, and I faced this as a direct care worker in a foster care facility for 10 years. Anytime a kid talked about suicide or death, first of all, nobody takes the time to listen. And a kid's not going to tell you unless they think you're interested in their life and they want you to take an interest in them. If you're not listening and you're not caring, they're not going to tell them. They're going to hold it all in and do it. But the bigger problem is when they do talk, I have seen my fellow coworkers discard it and throw it to the curb and say, oh, they're just looking for attention. And that is rule number one when you're dealing with a suicidal person. You take every threat seriously because it's a cry for help. Yeah. It's a cry for help. And nobody's listening to it. And I wish more people were like you and bringing this issue to the forefront. I mean, God bless you, and I feel bad for you with those local politicians, especially in small towns, that want to hide the problem and bury it and not talk about it.
Well, thank you.
Whoa.
I want to ask you, Sarah, because you know I'm all about the facts here. Now, I think it's disappointing that you weren't elected as mayor in your local area, because I think you could have done so much good. And it's admirable that even though you weren't elected, you're still getting on your soapbox. You're still doing things to make a difference, much to the chagrin of some of the local idiots. Tell me, I can say it, Sarah, because I don't live there. Tell me what your mayor and the local elected officials have done to recognize that there is a suicide epidemic in your area. What have they done?
They have done nothing. They have made no statements. They have made no steps towards anything. They haven't made any acknowledgement of it. They had a city council meeting while one was happening. They voted on a dog park, which we didn't need. They have done nothing. I did. A few people called them out, and they said, why weren't you at Sarah's thing? And they said, oh, we were busy. Well, I mean, they were all out Friday night at the local football game, but none of them could make it to my thing. And I mean, that's the thing. It's a lot of people say I'm a bully because I make jokes, and they're like, oh, Sarah, and like you said, I'm a comedian. That's what I do first, and that's what I use as my coping mechanism. And from what I've noticed, it's what a lot of teens use as their coping mechanism, and also adults. I'm not just saying teens, but they're who I'm really concerned for right now. And, they'll say, like, oh, Sarah's a bully because she's making jokes. And I say, listen, no, this is a coping mechanism, and you should never put someone down for their coping mechanism. You can't judge someone's way of dealing with something. If their way of dealing with it is joking, you let that teen joke. You let that person helping the teens joke. That's their way of relieving stress. If you don't like it, don't say anything, because that's not nice.
But it sounds to me, Sarah, that it's not just the kids that are getting bullied. And I'm going to come on to bullying in a second. But there are a lot of adult bullies in your area, and I've seen it myself on your Facebook page.
You've seen it yourself.
This is the thing. Children learn what they do. So if adults are bullying other adults and kids, because I've seen some adults on Facebook bully your son, which I'm not going to mention his name, and I'm not going to go into unless you want to.
Well, he's been bullied just for me running for mayor.
What kind of example do they see, Sarah?
Well, yeah, they're seeing it's just perpetuating hate. That's what we do here. We do drugs and perpetuate hate, and that's sad. And I tried to change it, but even my own son, and I'm not trying to interrupt anybody. I want to spit this out, though, while I'm thinking of it. My own son recently was he was physically assaulted for singing a song on the bus, okay? He was singing a song. A child asked him to shut up. He didn't, so the kid hit him. And then he hit my son again, and then he hit my son again. My son eventually did hit back. Now, my son went to his principal and said, I feel bullied. I feel bullied by teachers. I feel bullied by students. And all the principal did was write it down. And then earlier, because my son had said this twice, when he said it, he said, oh, you're not bullied. I don't see how that's bullying. And my son said, well, when 20 people call you a retard over and over again, that's bullying. And the principal said, no, that's not. it's an isolated incident. Well, whatever. Whenever I was there and I saw my son reach out to his principal right in front of me and say, teachers have bullied me, and I don't know why they're not telling you that they call me names. I don't know why the teachers aren't filing reports with you. That's not my job. I'm not the principal. I'm just a kid going to your school. I started bawling. I mean, that's all. If the kids aren't even listened to, what the hell?
I think,
Sarah,
I think that you should put the local education authority on notice that if any more children take lives in your area, that you're going to hold them accountable. Because if they're not doing, you see, I can't say that all the teachers are to blame, but they make themselves a part of the problem when they don't do enough to help combat it. And here's the thing, you said your son was assaulted on the school bus. It happened to me.
And he was punished more harshly than the other.
Because I hit back, Sarah, I was fighting. I wasn't defending myself. I was fighting. So the ideology is that there are two ways to deal with being hit at school. Either you ignore it and say nothing, and then other kids will see that you're a pushover and that they can hit you too. Or you hit back, and then you're called a bully for defending yourself. So if they can't get this help and guidance in school that they need, and the parents in the area are bullying each other and other kids anyway, what frickin' hope do these kids have?
Exactly. And whenever the principal said, well, yeah, but you were singing, so that caused the problem, my son said, wait a second, I can be hit because I'm verbally doing something? He can physically assault me? And the kid's still riding the bus. Isaac got kicked off.
Are you kidding me? I really think you have to involve the education authority, but I have to ask you, he wasn't singing Miley Cyrus, was he?
No, he was singing some goofy song about Cheez-Its. It was so innocent. I mean, it really was. And for him to be he was hit by a much older student, and for him to be more harshly punished for defending himself, well, like the principal said to Isaac, he said, Isaac, if your father and I got into a fist fight, we'd both get in trouble. I said, wrong. Isaac, don't believe that lie. If the principal were to hit your father and your father hit him back, that's called self-defense, and your father wouldn't get in any trouble at all.
Yeah.
I said that right in front of the principal, and he just glared at me and he said, don't you talk.
You know what we need to do, Sarah? This is not going to happen overnight, but I think we need to set up for in a couple of months' time a whole anti-bullying week in your vicinity, and I will come and we'll do live broadcasts from there, and we'll put it on the TV show and stuff too. And we really have to highlight this, because how many more children need to die because this epidemic of bullying is not being addressed.
And homosexuality is not accepted in this town. A lot of, let's just say a lot of the suicides are because of that.
Well,
and Sarah,
how are they going to respond to me?
Yes, Tony.
Go on, Tony.
I just wanted to encourage you. Back in 1994, I come from a small town in upstate New York, and there were basically two things to do: cow tip or do drugs for the kids.
Exactly.
And everything was covered up. I started this was when I was a teenager, much like your son, trying to do something, like give us something to do and get a teen center going. All the government people, all the civic groups, all those in power did not want that and did not want to do a thing to change it. Their response was, we have no problem here. You are the troublemaker. And it sounds to me like you're facing that same small town mentality, but it's people like you that stand up, that make a difference, that get your story out, that actually make a difference in the lives of these kids.
It's been so rough. It's so nice to hear you say that. Thank you. I've been trying so hard. I do have to say the media covered it. I was on the front page of both papers locally. The media does care. I happen to know them personally from when I ran for mayor. They care about their teens, too. It's just the leaders that aren't doing anything, and it's scary.
So can we,
and then not to mention the adults that bully me.
Can we agree then, Sarah, that you and I will talk, and Tony as well, if he's up for this, and we will have either an anti-bullying day or an anti-bullying week, and we will set stuff up for a day this year. I will come to where you are. So tell Ricky to beware, and we will do this. How do you feel about that?
That sounds awesome. I know Isaac would love it, and his friends would. I know a lot of people are wanting this bullying to stop. There's going to be hundreds of stories. It's scary how many women are going through what I'm going through right now.
In fact, let's do things like let's have a public meeting about it, and let's talk to the principal of the school, and we'll go into the school and talk about bullying.
He will not. They don't have bullying there. That's literally his quote.
Well, if he won't, then Sarah, I will give a press conference to say that he's refused to let us come in to talk about combating bullying. So you're on notice. Can you tell me his name, or are you not allowed to mention his name?
I don't want to do that yet, just because Isaac has to go back there in his life. So
no problem. So you're on notice, this head teacher, this school principal, whoever you are, you're on notice that we are aware that you're ignoring bullying, and we're not going to stand for it. And if we need to speak to the authorities that employ you to get you to look at this, then that's what we will do. So coming soon, we will be arranging an anti-bullying day for Salem, Illinois. So, Sarah, we've come to the time, but I want you to, do you have the details of Jason, the organization? Do you have their phone number?
Oh, the Jason Foundation? Anybody that wants to talk about suicide in their town, go to thejasonfoundation.com. It's awesome. They are the best people.
Right.
Also, you want to always give out the national suicide hotline number. And I also want to add again, I have a lot of people coming to me from my town wanting to talk about suicide because they might do drugs, for instance, and they don't want to go to jail. If they call the local hospital and say they need help. So I have a lot of people coming to me. Keep coming to me. I don't judge you by your sexual orientation, by your religious orientation, nothing. Keep coming to me. Keep talking to me. That's, keep talking. Don't be quiet.
In fact, I can personally attest to the fact that she loves gay people. I can personally attest
and they
to
love
that.
me.
She's a fag magnet. There, I said it.
Yeah. Even Kim Davis wants a piece of this. I mean,
let's not go there. I also wanted to just say, I want you to share where people can find you, Sarah, but I also wanted to mention about the Trevor Project, which has a national number, 1-866-488-7386, 1-866-488-7386. We're going to share this information at the end of the show. I'm going to get Sarah to share the Jason Project details, and we will share that too. But watch this space. We're going to set this up. We're going to have an anti-bullying day in Salem, Illinois, and we're going to try and get the schools, the mayor, the senator, the governor, everybody involved in this because one more teen dying and killing themselves unnecessarily is one too many as far as I'm concerned.
We can't.
It's great to have you. You have
Thanks
to come
for
back
having
more
me,
often.
Xander.
I know you have a very busy life, but you should come on at least once a month and talk about the things that you're doing because I know people find them interesting. Tell us where people can find you on social media.
Okay, I almost gave you my physical address. That's the cool part.
Don't worry, that'll be on the website when it gets up and running.
If you want to kick my ass, here's where you can find me. I'm in bed, sick. It's just Sarah Boyles, just Facebook, because my Twitter, I mean, you can try it. I'm having problems with it, but it's Boyles_S.
Absolutely.
And
we will share that information for you, Sarah, and we'll make sure that people come to you. But don't be afraid to ask Sarah if you need directing to somewhere that can give you advice. But
and
please,
if you're
young
afraid
people out there.
Yeah, I'm always here.
Yes,
I'm always
absolutely.
here for
young
whoever.
Out there, don't despair. Speak to an adult. Come to me on Facebook. Private message me. Email me, Xander at xandergibb.com. We will get you the help that you need. And don't forget, the Trevor Project is only a phone call away, 1-866-488-7386. Please don't despair. There is help out there, and don't do something drastic. Go and speak to an adult. Go and speak to a teacher. Even go and speak to this idiot that's, anyway, no, let's not go there. Go to speak to your teacher or your principal. I don't want to piss people off. I do, because I want to make them angry and make them do something about it, but let's do it in the right way. Let's get this ready. But for today, Sarah, thanks for joining us, comedian Sarah Boyles, talking about a very serious issue today, bullying and teen suicide. Make sure you follow her on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks a lot, Sarah. Have a great day.
Thank you, guys.
Take care, Sarah.
Bye. That was indeed Sarah Boyles, comedian. Make sure you follow her on Facebook and Twitter. Tony, tell people where they can find you on social media.
You can find me on The Full Story on Facebook and on YouTube at The Full Story. If I ever do get on Twitter again, you can find me at The Full Story 2014.
Yes, Tony, we have to start finding you for not going on Twitter. Get your ass on Twitter and reach out there to people. Listen, thanks so much for joining us today. Thanks for all your impetus, and you have a great week.
Thank you. You too, Xander.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. That was Tony Losacco from The Full Story. Make sure to check him out on Facebook and Twitter. Make sure you tweet him. His Twitter handle is at FullStory2014, FullStory 2014. Don't forget that all-important @ symbol. I want to give out that number just once more. If you are struggling, speak to an adult, speak to someone, a principal, a teacher, email me, Xander at XanderGibb.com. We will get you the help that you need. Don't despair, young people out there. There is an answer. You can get me on Facebook and Twitter, too. But if you need to speak to someone right away, call the Trevor Project. That's what they're there for. They're there to help. 1-866-488-7386, and we'll share their information right after the show has ended. Don't despair. There is help out there. Can't emphasize that strongly enough. We're going to close with this. It's Ideal One by me, Xander Gibb. I love you all, and I will be back next week. Bye-bye.
Aha, you're my ideal one.